The door flew open like a gunshot in the dead of night, and there was Elijah, frozen in the threshold of my bedroom, his dark eyes locking onto my bare chest as I yanked my shirt over my head. Sweat from the pickup basketball game still clung to my skin, making the air thick and electric between us. "Jordan," he whispered, his voice cracking like thunder rolling off the sound. "I can't do this anymore. I love you. And it's killing me." I stumbled back against the dresser, my heart slamming against my ribs. Because Elijah, Tyler's unbreakable best friend, the guy who'd been crashing on our couch since high school like he was family, was staring at me like I just handed him the moon and it was burning his palms. And then, before I could choke out a single word, he stepped inside and shut the door, his face twisting into something raw and ruined. But there's something you need to know about Mason. Something that'll break you worse than this ever could. Seattle in late fall feels like the city itself is holding its breath. All gray skies and relentless drizzle that seeps into your bones until you forget what dry even means. I'd grown up here, in a cramped queen and row house that overlooked the churning waters of Elliott Bay, where the ferries cut through the fog like ghosts commuting to nowhere. My brother Tyler and I had inherited the place from Mom after Dad bailed when I was 10, said he needed space to chase some dream in California that never panned out. Tyler, 3 years older and built like a linebacker, had stepped up, working double shifts at the Boeing plant to keep the lights on while I scraped through high school, dodging the whispers about why our family photo albums skipped from Disney World vacations to awkward prom shots with no parents in frame. Tyler was the golden boy, captain of the Huskies back in college, now a foreman with a laugh that could fill a room and a girlfriend named Sarah who baked pies that won blue ribbons at the Fremont Fair. Me? I was the quiet one, the kid who buried himself in graphic novels and late-night shifts at the indie bookstore on Capitol Hill, sketching strangers in the margins because faces told stories words never could. And yeah, I was gay. Had known it since that sleepover in 8th grade when I realized I wasn't checking out the girls in Tyler's dog-eared Sports Illustrated, but the way the light hit his buddy's jawline when he laughed. Elijah. God, Elijah. He'd been Tyler's shadow since they bonded over stolen beers behind the bleachers at Roosevelt High. Tall and lean, with that mop of chestnut hair that always fell into his hazel eyes and a smile that crinkled the corners like he'd seen too much but refused to let it dim. He was a barista by day at a hipster spot in Ballard, slinging oat milk lattes to tech bros, and a freelance photographer by night, chasing the city's underbelly, the drag queens lip-syncing in Pioneer Square, the activists chaining themselves to old-growth stumps in Discovery Park. Tyler called him the poet with a Nikon, but to me, he was a storm wrapped in flannel, the kind that rolls in unannounced and leave you drenched and desperate for more. I'd crushed on him hard for years, the kind of ache that hollows you out. Stolen glances during family barbecues on our sagging back deck, where the salmon smoked low and slow over alderwood while Tyler grilled Elijah about his latest heartbreak. Always some straight girl who didn't get his artsy vibe. I'd linger in doorways, pretending to refill the cooler, just to catch the way Elijah's fingers drummed on his beer bottle, calluses from guitar strings rough against the glass. But he was straight, or so I told myself. Tyler's stories painted him as the ultimate wingman, the guy who could charm a date out of anyone, but never stuck around for seconds. No way he'd look twice at the scrawny little brother tagging along to Seahawks games, hiding behind a foam finger like it was a shield. That night, though, everything cracked open. Tyler had dragged us to a casual game at the community center in Magnolia, him and his crew from work. Elijah tagging along with his camera slung over one shoulder like an afterthought. The gym smelled of rubber mats and stale Gatorade, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead as we ran plays under the rim. I held my own, sinking a few jumpers that earned grunts of approval from the old-timers. But my eyes kept drifting to Elijah on the sidelines, snapping shots of Tyler's fadeaway with that focused intensity that made my stomach flip. Sweat poured off me, my gray tee clinging like a second skin, and by the time we wrapped, I was spent, waving off Tyler's invite for post-game wings at the dive on Leary Way. Heading home. Bro, I'd muttered, clapping his shoulder. Gotta crash. Early shift tomorrow. Tyler ruffled my hair like I was still 12. Lightweight. Elijah, you riding with me or crashing at ours again? Elijah's gaze flicked to me, quick as a shutter click. Ours sound good. Beats my futon. Back at the house. The living room was a war zone of takeout boxes and Tyler's work boots kicked off by the door. He vanished into the shower, hollering about Sarah's texts lighting up his phone, leaving Elijah and me in that awkward limbo where conversation feels like defusing a bomb. I mumbled something about grabbing a drink from the fridge, but he just nodded, fiddling with his camera strap, the silence stretching taut as the rain pattered against the bay windows. Upstairs in my room, a converted attic with slanted ceilings and posters of Elliott Bay Bridge curling at the edges, I peeled off my shirt, the cool air raising goosebumps on my arms. The mirror above the dresser caught my reflection, lean frame from too many miles pounding pavement along the Burt Gilman Trail. A faint scar snaking across my ribs from a skateboarding wipeout in Green Lake Park. I was reaching for a clean tee when the door, damn it, I'd forgotten to lock it, swung wide. Elijah. His breath hitched, eyes tracing the lines of my torso before snapping up to my face, flushed red under the desk lamp's glow. I snatched a pillow from the bed, clutching it like armor, my pulse roaring in my ears. Dude, not much, but he didn't backpedal, didn't stammer an apology and bolt like any straight guy would. Instead, he crossed the threshold, closing the door with a soft click that echoed like a verdict. The room shrank around us, the air heavy with the scent of rain on his jacket and the faint cedar of his cologne. Jordan, he said again, softer this time, like my name was a prayer he'd rehearsed in the dark. I've been lying to myself for years. To Tyler. To everyone. But seeing you like this, it's too much. My mouth went dry, the pillow slipping from numb fingers. What the hell are you? I'm gay. The words landed like hail on sheet metal, sharp and unrelenting. He ran a hand through his hair, leaving in disarray, his chest rising and falling like he'd just run suicides on the court. And I'm in love with you. Have been since that summer Tyler dragged me to your family's cabin up in the Cascades. You were 16, sketching by the lake, and I couldn't stop watching you. The way the sunlight hit your hair, how you'd bite your lip when you erased a line. It scared the shit out of me. The world tilted. Elijah, my Elijah, the one I doodled in notebook margins, the one I jerked off to in the shower, fantasizing about stolen kisses in the stacks at the bookstore. Loving me? It was a fever dream, too fragile to touch. I sank onto the bed's edge, the springs creaking under me, my mind scrambling for footing. This can't be real. Tyler's downstairs. Tyler knows. Elijah's voice dropped, edged with something bitter, like coffee grounds left too long in the pot. He knelt in front of me, close enough that I could see the flecks of green in his irises, the faint stubble shadowing his jaw. His hands hovered near my knees, not touching, but the heat of them ghosted my skin. Not about us. Not yet. But he knows about me. And that's why I have to tell you now, before it eats us alive. About Mason. Mason. The name hit like a sucker punch to the gut. I'd met him 6 months back at a queer poetry slam in the Central District, tall, with ink-black hair and a laugh that rumbled like distant thunder. reading verses about lost boys and reclaimed hearts that made the room hush. We'd swap numbers, texted late into the nights about everything from Audre Lorde to the best faux spots in the International District. Flirty, sure as good night. Handsome, messages leaving me grinning at my phone like an idiot, but nothing physical. Just this slow burn of possibility, the kind that made my closeted life feel a little less like a cage. Elijah's face crumpled, and he looked away, toward the rain-streaked window where the city lights smeared into halos. Mason's not just some guy you met at a reading. Jordan. He's family. Your family. Tyler's been keeping it from you. Has been since you were kids. Mason's your half-brother. Same dad. Different mom. Dad's affair in Portland. Back before he split for good. Tyler found out when we were in college. Swore Mason to secrecy to protect you from a mess. But I knew Mason first. We were together. Before he even knew about you. The room spun, ball rising in my throat. Half-brother, the man whose poems I'd memorized, whose casual thinking of you texts had me floating through shifts. It couldn't be. Tyler, my rock. The brother who'd bandaged my scrapes and cheered my first published sketch in the UW Daily. Lying to me about this? For years? I shoved to my feet, the pillow tumbling forgotten to the floor, my voice a ragged whisper. You're lying. This is some sick joke, too. It's not. Elijah stood too, his hands finally landing on my arms. Firm, but trembling. I swear on everything. I broke it off with Mason when I realized how I felt about you. But he told me about meeting you. Said you reminded him of someone he couldn't place. And when Tyler put it together, God, Jordan, the guilt. It's why I've stayed away. Why I've let you think I was straight. But I can't anymore. Not when you're slipping into something that could destroy you both. Betrayal clawed up my spine. Hot and vicious. Tyler's laughter echoed from downstairs, mingling with the TV's murmur. Oblivious or complicit, I couldn't tell anymore. I wrenched free from Elijah's grip, my skin burning where he'd touched. Get out, I hissed, the words tasting like ash. Both of you, out of my head. He lingered for a beat, eyes pleading, then nodded once, sharp as a guillotine. The door clicked shut behind him, leaving me alone with the rain's relentless tattoo and the ghost of a family I'd never really known. That night, I didn't sleep. I texted Mason, we need to talk, and deleted every draft before hitting send. The screen blurring through tears I hadn't shed since Mom's funeral. Seattle's fog had never felt so thick, so suffocating. And in the morning, when Tyler knocked with coffee and his easy grin, I smiled back like nothing had shattered. Because what else could I do? Lie. Same as him. But lies have a way of rotting from the inside out, and mine was already festering. The next few weeks blurred into a haze of routine and rage, the kind that simmers low until it boils over at the worst moments. I'd clock into the bookstore at dawn, the bell above the door jingling like a mocking chime as I shelved dog-eared copies of Giovanni's Room and Call Me By Your Name, their spines whispering truths I wasn't ready to face. Customers drifted in, hipsters nursing hangovers with black coffee, retirees thumbing through true crime paperbacks, their chatter a dull roar that drowned out the what-ifs clawing at my skull. What if Elijah was wrong? What if Tyler had lied to protect me? Not hurt me? What if Mason and I had crossed that line before knowing? Elijah had kept his distance, a ghost in our shared orbit. He'd show up for Tyler's poker nights in the basement, nursing a Bud Light amid the haze of cigar smoke and bad bluffs. But his eyes would find mine across the room, heavy with unspoken apologies. Once, as the guys hollered over a flush, he slipped me a note folded into a napkin. Coffee? Neutral ground. Please. I crumpled it in my fist, the paper cutting like glass. and tossed it into the recycling bin, where it landed amid yogurt containers and yesterday's headlines about the Mariners' latest slump. Tyler noticed the chill. Of course. He was my brother. After all, knew me better than the freckles on my knuckles. "You good, Jay?" he'd ask over breakfast, sliding a plate of scrambled eggs across the chipped formica. Sarah's voice chirping from his phone about wedding colors. Peach. Apparently. Because it's timeless. I nod, forcing a laugh about some lame customer story. But inside, the accusation festered. How long had he known? Had he watched me pine for Elijah? All while guarding this nuclear secret like it was state property? Mason's text tapered off after my non-response, shifting from playful emojis to tentative check-ins. "Hey, everything okay? Miss your reads on that Rilke poem." Each ping was a knife twist, because now every word carried the weight of blood ties I hadn't asked for. I'd stare at my phone during lunch breaks on the Alki Beach path, waves lapping at the pebbles like they were trying to wash away the confusion, and wonder if ignorance really was bliss. We'd planned a hike up Rattlesnake Ledge that weekend, picnic included. He joked, with craft IPAs and a playlist of indie folk to drown out the tourists. Now, the thought of seeing him, of parsing his features for echoes of Dad's crooked smile in old photos, made my chest cave in. I caved on a Tuesday, the rain finally breaking into a rare slant of autumn sun that gilded the Space Needle like fool's gold. Tyler was at an overtime shift, the house empty save for the hum of the fridge and the distant wail of a siren from I-5. I pulled up Mason's contact, thumbs hovering, then typed, "Rattlesnake still on? Need to clear my head." His reply buzzed immediate, "Hell yes." "Meet at the trailhead. 10 a.m. Bring that sketch pad. Scenery begs for it." The drive east on 520 was a meditation in denial, the evergreens blurring past as Lake Washington sparkled mockingly serene. Mason was already there when I pulled into the gravel lot, leaning against his beat-up Subaru with a thermos in hand, his black hair tousled by the breeze off the ridge. He grinned when he saw me. That easy, disarming curve that had hooked me from night one. And for a split second, the world righted itself. "Stranger," he said, pulling me into a quick bro hug that lingered half a beat too long, his flannel soft against my cheek. "Thought you'd ghosted." "Life," I muttered, falling into step beside him on the trail. The path climbed steady, roots snaking across the dirt like veins, the air crisp with pine and damp earth. We talked surface stuff at first, his gig as a barback at a Capitol Hill lounge, the poetry scene's latest drama, some prof sleeping with a student. Classic, but under it all thrummed the tension, my pulse sinking with the crunch of our boots. Halfway up, at a clearing where the ledge dropped sheer to the valley below, we paused. Mason unpacked the thermos, spiked cider, warm and spiced, passing me a tin cup as the sun filtered through the canopy, dappling his face in light and shadow. "All right," he said, settling on a fallen log, knees brushing mine. "Spill. You've got that brooding artist vibe going hard today." I sipped, the burn steadying me, and let it rip. Not the whole truth, not yet, but enough. Family secrets. Lies that gnaw at you. The fear of wanting something you shouldn't. His brow furrowed. Those dark eyes, Dad's eyes, searching mine. Sounds heavy. My old man's the king of vanishing acts. Split when I was 5. Left Mom with a stack of bills and a toddler. Never looked back. He paused, fiddling with a twig. Makes you wonder what you'd do with the truth. You know, if it showed up knocking. The words hung there. A bridge or a bomb. And I almost told him. Almost bridged the gap with Elijah's revelation. Watched it detonate between us. But fear clamped my jaw shut. That old closeted instinct kicking in, protect the fragile thing. Don't let it bleed out. Instead, I leaned in, our shoulders touching, and murmured, maybe I'd run with it. See where it leads. His hand found mine, then. Tentative. Fingers lacing like puzzle pieces slotting home. The touch sent sparks up my arm, warm and forbidden, and for one reckless heartbeat, I let myself imagine it, us, tangled in sheets in his cramped U-District apartment, reading each other like open books. His thumb traced my knuckle, soft as a promise, and he tilted his head, lips parting like he might close the distance. A raven's caw shattered it, harsh overhead, and I pulled back, heart hammering. We should head up, I said, voice rough, standing too fast. The rest of the hike was stilted, words few as the trail steepened. My mind a whirlwind of what-ifs and God knows. At the summit, the view stretched endless, cascades of color in the turning leaves. The Olympics jagged on the horizon, but all I saw was fracture lines spiderwebbing through the life I'd built. That night, Elijah cornered me in the kitchen, Tyler out with Sarah at a Sounders match. I was rinsing dishes, the faucets roar masking my uneven breaths, when his reflection ghosted in the window above the sink. Saw your car headed east this morning, he said quietly. No accusation, just fact. Mason, I shut off the water, gripping the edge of the counter till my knuckles blanched. None of your business. It is when it's tearing you up. He stepped closer, the space between us charged like the air before a storm. I didn't tell you to hurt you, Jordan. I told you because I love me. The sarcasm dripped like venom, but cracked on the end, betrayal bleeding through. Convenient timing, right after you dropped the brother bomb. What? You think that makes us even? Tyler's been my whole world, and you both just erased me from it. Elijah flinched like I'd slapped him. Tyler's scared. Always has been. When he found out about Dad's other kid, Mason's mom reached out years ago. Drunk and desperate for cash, he panicked. Thought it'd break you, knowing Dad had this whole other life. So he paid her off, swore Mason to silence. I only knew because he trailed off, jaw tight. Because Mason and I, we were real. Once. College. That summer workshop in Port Townsend. He confided in me after Tyler spilled. And when I met you, Jordan, it was like lightning. But the secret? It poisoned everything. I whirled on him, suds dripping from my hands. And you let it? Watch me flirt with my own brother like some twisted rom-com? Jesus. Elijah, how do I even look at you? Because I'm here, he shot back, voice rising for the first time, raw and frayed. Trying to fix it. Tyler's drowning in guilt. He wants to tell you, but he's terrified you'll hate him. And Mason, he doesn't know the full story either. Thinks Tyler's just some uptight relative he never met. But if you two keep circling, a key scraped in the front door lock, Tyler's voice booming from the hall. You save me any of that leftover pizza? Elijah and I sprang apart like repelled magnets. The moment fracturing into normalcy as Tyler lumbered in, Jersey sweat damp, oblivious to the minefield. We played it off, me drying my hands on a towel. Elijah cracking a joke about the game's ref, but the air hummed with unsaid things. Later, alone in my room, I pulled up an old photo on my phone, Tyler and me at the Pike Place Market, arms slung around each other, tossing fish with the vendors, grins wide as the bay. Brothers. Blood. Lies. The breaking point came on a Friday. The kind of blue-skied miracle that lures ceadolites outdoors like addicts chasing a fix. Tyler texted mid-shift. Family dinner? Sarah's making lasagna. Invite Elijah. I stared at the screen, the bookstore's espresso machine hissing in the background, and typed back, sure. But we need to talk. For real. His reply, all good, just talk. That evening, the house filled with domestic hum, Sarah humming Sinatra in the kitchen, the oven's heat fogging the windows, Elijah arriving with a six-pack and that guarded smile. Dinner was a minefield of small talk, Sarah's wedding Pinterest boards, Elijah's shots from a protest in California Anderson Park against the latest housing crunch. I picked at my plate, the cheese congealing like doubt, until the dishes were cleared and Sarah excused herself for a bath, leaving the three of us in the living room with the Mariners game flickering muted on the TV. Tyler stretched on the couch, cracking his knuckles. All right, G. Lay it on me. You've been weird as hell. Elijah tensed beside me on the love seat, his knee an inch from mine, but I didn't look at him. This was Tyler's reckoning. Mason, I said, the name a grenade pin pulled. Tell me about him. Tyler's face drained of color, the easy grin evaporating like mist under noon sun. What? What do you mean? Don't. My voice sharpened, honed on weeks of fury. Elijah told me. Half-brother. Dad's affair. The payoff to keep it quiet. How long? Ty? Since college? Longer. He shot Elijah a look betrayal, raw and gaping, then buried his face in his hands. Fuck. Eli, man. I asked you. I couldn't let it fester. Elijah cut in, voice steady but eyes pleading with me. Not when it's hurting him. Tyler slumped, the weight of it all crashing down. It was supposed to protect you. Gee. You were a kid when Mom got sick 14. Remember? Crying every night because Dad was gone. I couldn't pile on more shit. Mason's mom called out of the blue my sophomore year. Said Dad had knocked her up in '98, right before he split. She was broke, threatening to tell Mom. I scraped together what I could from my savings, made her sign papers. Mason. He was cool about it. Didn't want drama. We met once. Coffee in Tacoma. Swore we'd leave it buried. Buried. The word echoed. A grave I'd been living in. And when I met him, at that reading, you knew it was him. Had to. Why not say something? Let me walk into this blind. Tears tracked down Tyler's face. Unashamed. The big brother facade crumbling. I didn't connect it at first. Then Eli mentioned your text. And, God, gee, I froze. Thought if I stayed quiet, it'd blow over. You're my little brother. The only family I've got left that didn't bail. I couldn't lose you to this mess. The room pressed in. The game's crowd roared distant thunder. I wanted to scream, to hurl the remote at the wall and watch it shatter like my illusions. But seeing him like that, shattered already, voice thick with the same grief that had bound us since Mom's chemo days, something cracked open in me. Not anger, but ache. You should have trusted me, I whispered. I'm not a kid anymore. Ty. Secrets don't protect, they poison. He nodded. Broken. I know. I'm sorry. For all of it. Elijah shifted, his hand brushing mine in the shadows, a lifeline or a spark. I couldn't tell. But as Tyler pulled me into a hug that smelled of aftershave and regret, the first threads of forgiveness wove in, fragile as spider silk. It wasn't absolution. Not yet. But it was a start. Outside, the stars pricked through the clearing sky, indifferent witnesses. And in the quiet after, as Tyler retreated to bed with a mumbled goodnight, Elijah lingered, his whisper cutting the silence. You okay? I met his gaze, the hazel depths pulling me under. Getting there. But this. Us. It's complicated now. He nodded, a sad smile ghosting his lips. Complicated's better than nothing. Complicated became our new normal. A tightrope walk over the chasm Elijah's confession and Tyler's unraveling had carved. The next morning, Tyler and I sat at the kitchen table over cooling coffee, the air thick with the scent of burnt toast from Sarah's early yoga class. He looked wrecked, eyes red-rimmed under the harsh fluorescence. But there was a resolve in his slump, like a man surfacing after too long underwater. "I want to meet him," he said, stirring his mug absently. "Mason. Properly this time. No more hiding." I blinked, the steam curling between us like question marks. "You sure? Last night was a wake-up call." He met my eyes, steady for the first time in weeks. "You're right. I treated you like glass. But family's messy. Gee, blood or not. If he's part of this, he's part of us." We texted Mason that afternoon, a group invite to Neutral Turf, the Elliott Bay Book Company. My turf, where the creak of wooden floors and the rustle of pages could absorb any blow-up. Family reunion light. I joked in the chat, my thumbs betraying none of the nausea churning inside. Mason's reply pinged quick, intrigued. 6 p.m.? I'll bring the neuroses. Elijah opted out. Your show, he texted me, with a winking emoji that didn't reach the subtext. I'm here if it implodes. Tyler and Sarah picked me up after my shift, her hand on his thigh, a quiet anchor as we navigated the downtown crawl. Ferries honking in the bay like impatient suitors. The store was alive with the afterwork crowd, jazz murmuring from hidden speakers as we claimed a corner table near the cooking section. The weight of cookbooks, ironic bulwark. Mason arrived fashionably late, weaving through the stacks with that effortless grace. A paper bag swinging from one hand, craft donuts from Seawolf Bakers, a piece offering glazed in cinnamon sugar. His smile faltered when he spotted us. The pieces slotting, Tyler's broad shoulders, my narrower echo, Sarah's warm wave. "Holy shit," he breathed, sliding into the seat across from me. This the plot twist. Tyler extended a hand, firm but not crushing. "Mason, good to see you again." For real this time. The introductions blurred, Sarah's easy chatter about her nonprofit gig at the food bank, Mason's quip about his latest poem getting rejected by Prairie Schooner, but under the pleasantries simmered the undercurrent, eyes darting like searchlights for resemblances. Dad's nose on Mason. Maybe the same stubborn set to the jaw. Me, I nursed a flat white, hyper-aware of every brush of knees under the table, every laugh that echoed too much like family. It spilled out over second coffees. Tyler laying it bare, the call from Mason's mom, the hush money scraped from ramen budgets, the pact sealed in a Tacoma Starbucks that reeked of regret. Mason listened, donut untouched, his dark eyes, our eyes, glinting with a mix of fury and weary understanding. "So Dad was a ghost to both of us," he said finally, voice low to not carry over the murmur of browsers. "Mom always said he was complicated. Turns out that's code for asshole." Tyler winced. "He was. To all of us. But that doesn't make us him." Sarah squeezed his arm, and something in a knot of my chest loosened. Mason turned to me then, his gaze softening. "And you? How you holding up with this bombshell?" I shrugged, the truth too jagged for casual. Angry. Confused. But glad it's out. No more shadows. We lingered till closing, the staff politely herding us out as the city lights flickered to life beyond the windows. Hugs at the curb, awkward, genuine, then Mason pulled me aside, his hand on my elbow, an echo of that trail moment. "This changes things." "Huh?" The flirting. The whatever. Yeah. Relief washed through me, bittersweet as the dregs in my cup. "Friends? For real." He grinned, pulling me into a quick embrace that smelled of sugar and ink. "Brothers first. Friends always." Driving home, Tyler cranked the classic rock station, Pearl Jam wailing about black holes, and for the first time in months, the cab filled with off-key sing-alongs. Sarah drumming the dash. It wasn't fixed, not by a long shot, but it was forward, a step off the ledge. Elijah waited on our stoop when we pulled up, camera bag at his feet, the porch light casting him in chiaroscuro. Tyler clapped his shoulder on the way in, thanks for having my back, man, and vanished upstairs, leaving us in the salted quiet of the street. How'd it go? Elijah asked, pushing off the railing, his flannel unbuttoned over a faded Radiohead tee. I exhaled, the night's weight lifting a fraction. Better than expected. Turns out blood's thicker than bullshit. Sometimes, he chuckled, low and warm, stepping closer. The air between us hummed, alive with the unsaid, the confession in my room, the handbrush in the living room, the way his presence had anchored me through the storm. Proud of you, he murmured, his fingers grazing mine, tentative as a question. I didn't pull away. Instead, I laced them, the calluses rough against my palm, and tugged him toward the backyard fence, away from prying windows. The grass was damp underfoot, the neighbor's wind chimes tinkling softly as we leaned against the slats, shoulders touching. I was wrong, I said, the words tumbling out. About pushing you away. You didn't deserve that. Elijah turned, his face inches from mine, breath mingling in the chill. I get it. The secret, it was mine too, in a way. Keeping quiet for Ty, then watching you with Mason. It gutted me. Jealousy flickered, unbidden, but I quashed it. No more watching from the sidelines. His free hand cupped my jaw, thumb tracing the line of my cheekbone, and the world narrowed to that touch, electric, inevitable. No more, he whispered, and then his lips were on mine, soft at first, testing, then deepening as I leaned in, the kiss tasting of cider and courage. It wasn't fireworks. It was hearth fire, steady and consuming, the kind that warms you through a Seattle winter. We broke apart gasping, foreheads pressed, his laugh rumbling against my chest. About damn time, but bliss is fleeting in stories like ours. And the universe, ever the bastard, had one more curveball chambered. It landed 2 weeks later. A voicemail from an unknown Portland number while I was mid-shift, restocking manga in the graphic novels aisle. Jordan? This is Carla. Tyler's got my contact from way back. We need to talk. About your father. And Mason. Theirs. More you don't know. My stomach plummeted. The phone slick in my grip. More? What the hell could be left? I pocketed it. Finished my shift on autopilot. Then drove to Elijah's tiny studio in Fremont, the one with the troll sculpture looming outside like a guardian, and spilled it over takeout pad thai, the neon from the bridge pulsing through his blinds. He paced the scarred hardwood, camera forgotten on the counter. Portland. That's Mason's mom's turf. You think she's flipping the script or cashing in? Paranoia edged my voice. The old wounds reopening. Ty said he paid her off once. What she wants round two. Elijah stopped, kneeling in front of me on the futon, his hands on my knees. Then we face it. Together. No more solo hikes into the unknown. I nodded, pulling him up. Our kiss fiercer this time, laced with the fear of fresh fractures. That night, we didn't sleep much, talking till dawn about everything and nothing. His first crush on a theater kid in high school. My terror coming out to Tyler, he'd hug me, call me brave, then cracked open a couple Rainiers. By morning, with the sun gilding the Trolls Bridge, we'd forged something solid, a pact sealed in whispered promises and tangled limbs. Chased but charged. Tyler agreed to the drive south. No Sarah this time. Just the brothers plus Elijah. packing the Jetta with gas station jerky and playlists of Springsteen for the I-5 slog. The Columbia River gleamed under overcast skies as we crossed into Oregon, the landscape shifting to rolling hills dotted with Pinot vineyards, a world away from Seattle's urban grit. Carla's address led us to a sagging bungalow in a Selwood neighborhood, porch sagging under potted herbs and wind chimes that clinked like bones. She was waiting, mid-40s with laugh lines etched deep and hair streaked gray, a far cry from the desperate woman in Tyler's tales. Coffee brewed on the stove, mugs steaming as we settled around a Formica table scarred with crayon ghosts. Mason was there too, had driven down the day before, his presence a buffer or a balm, eyes wary as he nodded hello. Carla didn't mince. I lied back then. About the money. Took it because I needed it. Cancer bills for my ma. Mason's braces, but it wasn't just an affair. Your dad, she swallowed, glancing at Tyler. He promised marriage. Said he'd leave your mom. I was 22. Stupid. Believed him. When he ghosted, I swallowed it. Raised Mason alone. But last year, digging through old boxes after he passed, a pause. Heavy. Found letters. To me. And one to you. Jordan. Unsent. She slid an envelope across the table, yellowed and sealed with a faded heart sticker. My hand shook opening it. Dad's scrawl spilling out. Apologies to a boy he barely knew. Regrets for the life he torched. A plea for forgiveness that landed like lead in my gut. I wanted to be better, it read. For you, if you'd let me. Tears blur the ink. Hot and unbidden. Tyler read over my shoulder, his breath hitching, and Mason, our brother, half shadow no more, reached across, squeezing my wrist. He was flawed as hell, but he tried, in his way. Carla nodded, eyes glassy. I call because no more lies. Mason's got a trust from your dad's estate, split 3 ways. If you want it. But more than money. Family. If you'll have it. The room held its breath. The chimes outside a soft dirge. Tyler broke first, standing to hug her, awkward, then real, mumbling thanks through a choked throat. I followed, the envelope clutched like a talisman, and Mason pulled us all into a huddle. 4 fractured pieces, slotting uneven but true. The drive back was cathartic. Windows down to let the wind whip away the grief. Stopping at a roadside diner for milkshakes that tasted like redemption. Elijah drove the last leg, his hand on my thigh a quiet anchor, while Tyler dozed in the back with Mason. Their snores a duet of reconciliation. But peace, in our world, was prelude. The real storm brewed back home, in a betrayal I never saw coming, not from family, but from the fringes, where envy festers into venom. It started with a knock at midnight. 3 days post-Portland, the house dark save for the fridge's glow. I padded downstairs in boxers and a tee. Elijah crashed out upstairs after a late edit session. Tyler and Sarah, at her place, planning the engagement party. The peephole showed a stranger, mid-30s, slick hair in a leather jacket that screamed trouble, holding a manila envelope. Jordan Hale, his voice was oily, like used car sales. Delivery. Sign here. I cracked the door, chain on, and scrawled my name. He smirked, vanishing into the night, leaving me with a packet of photos that hit the floor like fallout. Me and Elijah, kissing in the backyard. Me and Mason, hand in hand on the trail. Blurry shots of Tyler handing cash to Carla's shadow years back. A note clipped to the stack. Family skeletons make great stories. $50,000, or the stranger runs it all. A friend. Blackmail. From who? My mind reeled. Elijah's exes? Mason's barback rivals? Someone from Tyler's plant? sniffing old dirt. Panic clawed up, and I bolted upstairs, shaking Elijah awake. "Look," I hissed, shoving the photos under the lamp's glare. His face paled, then hardened into fury. "Son of a bitch." "This is—" The front door crashed open downstairs. Tyler's shout shattering the night. "Jordan, get down here now." We tumbled down, hearts pounding, to find him in the foyer, Sarah wide-eyed behind, holding a duplicate envelope. "Same photos, same demand." "Found it on the doorstep," he growled. "We're calling the cops." But as sirens wailed distant, "Cops en route," the final twist landed via text to all our phones. Tick-tock. "Pay up, or Portland's letters go viral too. Ask Elijah about his darkroom secrets." Elijah staggered, color draining. "What the— I don't." The room exploded, accusations flying, trust fracturing like cheap glass. Had he staged it? Sold us out for some twisted insurance? Tyler's fist clenched, Sarah pleading for calm. Mason's incoming call buzzing unanswered. And me, caught in the crossfire, staring at the man I'd just given my heart to, wondering if love was just another lie in disguise. The living room devolved into chaos. A tableau of accusations and shattered illusions under the harsh glare of the overhead light. Tyler paced like a caged bear. Phone clutched white-knuckled as he barked updates to the dispatcher. Yes. Extortion. Photos attached. Send someone now. Sarah huddled on the couch, her engagement ring hand twisting a throw pillow to shreds, while Elijah stood frozen by the window, the blackmail note trembling in his grip. Mason's FaceTime rang insistent on the coffee table, his voice crackling through when I finally swiped. "What the hell's going on?" "Just got the same packet. Someone's gunning for us." I cut in, voice hollow as I relayed the gist. The photos splayed on the rug like evidence in a bad noir. Elijah's darkroom secrets. What did that even mean? I'd seen his setup in the Fremont studio, trays of developer, prints pinned to lines like laundry, nothing but street scenes and portraits that stripped souls bare. But the doubt wormed in. Insidious. Had he captured more? Sold snapshots to the highest bidder? Cops arrived in a blur of badges and notepads. A no-nonsense detective named Ruiz with a Portland accent and eyes that missed nothing. She bagged the envelopes, snapped pics of our faces, pale, fractured, and grilled us gentle but thorough. Timelines, grudges, anyone with access to our lives. Tyler fingered his plant crew. Layoffs last month. Bad blood, while I mentioned the bookstore's rival owner, a bitter ex-activist who'd crossed Elijah at a rally. Mason chimed in remotely. Bar fights spill secrets. Could be anyone. Elijah? Silent, staring at his boots scuffed from the trail. Until Ruiz pinned him. The note mentions you specifically, Mr. Hayes. Care to elaborate? He swallowed. Adam's apple bobbing. Darkroom. I develop for freelancers sometimes. Side gig. But nothing like this, swear to God. She nodded, non-committal, and left with promises of follow-up. The cruiser taillights fading into the drizzle-slick street. Dawn crept in gray and unforgiving. Sarah brewing emergency tea that no one touched. Tyler clapped Elijah's shoulder, tentative. The brotherly ease strained, muttering, "We got this," before bundling Sarah home for rest. Mason texted, "Drive safe tomorrow." "We'll sort it." Me and Elijah? We climbed the stairs in silence. The bed a minefield we skirted by crashing on opposite ends. The space between us vast as the sound. Morning brought no clarity, just a hangover of suspicion. I woke to Elijah's side empty, the scent of coffee wafting up, and found him at the kitchen table. Laptop open to his email, frantic scrolls through old threads. "It's not me," he said without preamble, voice raw from lack of sleep. But look, 3 months back, I forwarded a batch to a guy named Dex. Old contact from J-School. Said he was scouting for a doc on Seattle's queer underground. I sent family stuff, Tyler's wedding mock-ups, your sketches from the bookstore. Harmless. Harmless. The word tasted bitter, and I poured coffee black, scalded my tongue. And this Dex? He ghosts after. Elijah nodded, guilt etching lines around his mouth. Thought he flaked. But if he pieced it together, the Hale's secrets. The Portland trip. Extortion's his style. Dropped out after a scam allegation last year. I sank into a chair. The piece is slotting ugly. Why didn't you say? When the photos hit. Because it sounded paranoid. Like I was deflecting. He reached across. But I flinched. The motion involuntary. And hurt flashed in his eyes, sharp as the betrayal we'd both tasted. Jordan, I love you. This us, it's the one thing I've never faked. The words hung, a plea wrapped in pain, and something in me softened, the anger ebbing to exhaustion. I want to believe you. But trust. It's bruised. Eli. Bad. He nodded, standing to pull me up, his arms enveloping me in a hug that was all bone and heartbeat. No demand. Then let's prove it. Together, we drove to Fremont that afternoon, the city unfolding in watercolor smears under a pallid sun. Elijah's studio was a chaos of creativity, canvases leaning like dominoes. Film reels tangled on shelves, and we tore through his files, unearthing Dex's trail, a burner email, a LinkedIn ghost profile tied to a Vancouver address. He's across the line, Elijah muttered, cross-referencing with Ruiz's tip line. Cops can pull border cams, but the real break came from Mason, a forwarded tip from his bar crowd. Dex, slinging drinks under an alias at a dive in Pioneer Square, peddling exposés to tabloid hacks. We met there at dusk, the four of us, brothers bound by blood and choice. Elijah, my anchor, slipping into the dim booth reeking of spilled stout and regret. Dex was easy to spot, weasel-faced, nursing a whiskey neat, eyes darting like he smelled the trap. Tyler confronted him first, voice low thunder. You got 5 minutes to explain before I drag you to the precinct myself. Dex blanched, spilling it in a rush. The emails Elijah sent sparked his sleuthing. Old public records on Dad's estate leading to Carla. A tale on our Portland run sealing the dirt. Thought it was gold, he whined, sweat beading on his brow. Queer family drama? Sells papers. No harm meant. No harm. Mason's laugh was dark, leaning in close. You blackmailed my brothers. My family. Elijah slid the phone across. Ruiz on speed dial. Confess, or we let the law play. He caved, rambling into the recorder. Motive. Method. The works, till the cuffs clicked on outside. Squad cars materializing like Justice's delayed encore. As they hauled him away, Dex's glare fixed on Elijah. You were easy, pretty boy. Too trusting with your lens. The jab landed, but Elijah just straightened. Chin up. Trust got me here. With them, back home. The adrenaline crash hit hard, beers on the deck under string lights. Sarah toasting with her mocktail. Mason regaling us with bar tales till laughter drowned the echoes. Tyler pulled me aside at one point, arm heavy around my shoulders. Proud of you, G, for calling the shots, for letting us in. I hugged him back, the scar of secrets fading to a faint line. We're Hales. Messy, but unbreakable. Night deepened, the group thinning. Mason crashing at a motel en route north. Sarah and Tyler retreating to whispers and wine. Elijah and I ended up on the back steps. The city a constellation below, his head on my shoulder as crickets chirped sporadic in the chill. Think that's the last of it, I murmured, fingers tracing patterns on his palm. He tilted up, eyes reflecting the stars. For the surprises? Maybe. For us? Just the start. I kissed him then, slow and sure, the world fading to the press of his lips, the rain-scented air, the quiet vow humming between us. No grand gestures, no violins, just two guys and a creaky queen in house, building something real from the rubble. Months blurred forward. Tyler's wedding in a sun-dappled volunteer park. Mason as best man with a toast that roasted Dad's ghosts but honored the living. Elijah's exhibit downtown. Shots of Seattle's hidden hearts, including one of me sketching by the locks. Titled Unseen Currents, sold out opening night. Me? I quit the bookstore for a junior designer gig at a local mag. My illustrations peppering spreads on the city's queer renaissance. But the deepest shift was internal, the psychological thaw after years frozen in fear. Therapy sessions in a cozy Belltown office unpacked the closeted coils, the ache of Dad's absence, Mom's quiet strength, Tyler's overprotective shield. Elijah joined sometimes, our hands linked under the Kleenex box, turning wounds to wisdom. One evening, as summer's long light dipped toward fall, Elijah and I walked the waterfront, ferries chugging patient, gulls wheeling overhead. He stopped by the Ferris wheel, its pods glowing like lanterns, and pulled a small box from his pocket. Not a ring, but a vintage Leica lens, etched with focus on the light. "For your shots," he said, voice thick. "And mine. Whatever comes." I slipped it into my bag, then drew him close, our embrace fierce against the bay's breeze. In that moment, rain kissed, city pulsing, I saw it clear. Love isn't absence of storm, but dancing in it, scarred but standing. We'd lost illusions, gained truths, betrayed and been betrayed, only to forgive fiercer. Seattle stretched before us, gray and golden, a canvas of second chances. And as the wheel turned slow circles behind, I whispered into his hair, "This is us." Finally, no tidy bows, no erased scars, just forward, hand in hand, into the beautiful mess.